I don't know how much reflection from the window you're going to get in this, but just turned it on briefly. Show you what a contrast the weather can be from one day to the next up here. Yesterday wasn't too bad, Monday was lovely. Here we are, Dydd Mercher, Wednesday, and it's raining. Typical British summer holiday. But I think it's going to clear. I'm looking southwest, and the clearance is coming from the northwest, so we're not going for an hour. By the time we get going, I think we might see an improvement in the weather. Heading east today, Rhyl, Prestatyn, Abergele, Holywell, and that kind of area. So we'll see you a little later and see what we can find. Oh, Rhyl. Welcome to Rhyl. This is a very strange place. It's also very windy this morning, so the chances are there's going to be some horrendous wind noise, which I might have to edit out and record over in the studio. I'm just looking at the sand here because I'm going to go over the top of this bridge in a minute, and I'm thinking to myself, the bridge is here because obviously at very high tide or when there's a lot of rain, this probably floods. I guess this would be horrendously busy if this was a normal holiday time. Well, what can we say about it? After the Second World War, the world and his wife decamped here from Liverpool. And so Nerys Hughes was born here. Ruth Ellis, the last woman to be hanged, was born here. Carol Vorderman went to school here. That's about all that can be said for it. It's a pretty run-down seaside resort these days, so I'm sure they wouldn't want me to say that. But I'm quite convinced that in happier and busier times, this would be a very pleasant place to come. There's a little aquarium there, that funny shaped building. Anyway, forgive the wind noise. I'm going to go up and over this bridge. Did I say flooding down below? It floods up here. How strange. There's that. Just a very quick voiceover to say at this point the wind just became too much, overwhelmed everything, so blotted out. Just a very quick mention that here we managed to zoom in a bit more on the on that huge wind farm and the structures associated with it. But then after this point, I don't know what I did. I forgot to bring the zoom back. It just went totally crazy. So we'll forget all about that and go on to the next bit. Very nice church spire over there. I don't know if I'm looking at it or not. There it is, yes. I might have to, I'm probably still, yeah, thought as much. I do apologise, these schoolboy errors, but I'm sure there must be something that I can buy that covers this screen, so that it darkens it, that I can see what I'm doing. Down the other side. seems little purpose to this other than just to get a good view. But, interesting that it's sand coloured, so that it matches the sand the other side. An awful lot of sand gets piled up. It's going to get blurry again now. I'm going to head out into this wind because I want to see just how much higher we are from the beach here. As you can see, this is quite high up, so I can only conclude that the sand is windblown, or the sea, when it's really high, comes right up over the top. The sand at the top of the steps there, you can hear the roar of the sea in the distance. See the extent. Now, I've come up on top of the bridge here because I'm guessing through there is one of the main parts of the town, probably the high street. You can see that through there. And this nice clock tower and roundabout. The road underneath this goes down into one of the car parks. The wind gets you out of breath. This is quite a nice floral display here. The I said it was a bit run down. Well, yes it is. But probably in a normal year you'd see all of these kiosks still open. Loads and loads of tourists here. The trouble is, coach tours. I'm sure I really should use the word inhabited. What's the word I'm looking for? Well, anyway, they seem to be the domain of those of a certain age, and of course with the shielding and everything else, they're just not coming out this year. We have got, as you saw, quite a lot of coaches in Llandudno, but there aren't as many about as you would normally expect to find. And this is very sad because this particular part of the seafront, I should imagine, in good weather, lots of people here, probably does very well. And I may have been a bit unfair to say it's a bit run down, but it does. As you come through Abergele and you see all the shops that look as though they're permanently closed there, and like this bridge, you look at the railings, they're in need of a lick of paint. There's an air of sadness about the station. yes, about Pensarn Station, there was an air of sadness about it. And there's a general air of sadness about the whole of this place, really. You can feel it, it's palpable. In the same way that now we've moved from summer to astrological autumn. It takes me back to when I was a kid. You knew what the seasons were, you felt them change. And I have to say that since Monday, I know it's only Wednesday now, but the change is there. You feel the change. The temperature's a good 10 degrees down over what it was. It's a cold bite coming across off of the Irish Sea. And COVID or no COVID, you know that it's coming to the end of another season, and things are going to begin to close, those that have managed to open. I do wonder what the new restrictions will mean for day coach trips, given that we're supposed to not be travelling unless it's absolutely necessary. But, however, enough of that. Don't know where we're off to next, but we'll see what we can find there. My money's on Prestatyn, but we'll see when we get there. Well, this rather rough picture gives us a chance to stop and get our bearings. I lost my money. Prestatyn was a bit of a letdown, really. It's so small, we'd driven through it before I even realised we'd driven through it. And the only thing that really reminds anybody of its former glory was the remnants of the old Pontins holiday camp. Apologies to the people that live in Prestatyn, but you know, from the point of view of the traveller, there's not really anything to see there anymore. Sadly, I'm sure it's a nice place. But anyway, we carried on further down the Dee estuary, past Mostyn Port, and then we ended up in this place called Llanerch-Y-Mor, in a place called Abercarn. This seemed a very strange place when we went in, because it was like a factory outlet village, but very, very small. However, it turns out that this was the site of one of the major lead smelting works, because the lead industry was really the dominant industry in the area for many, many years. And this particular works suffered a fire in 1951. It was sort of rebuilt and finally closed in 1955. And it's now owned by a company called Abercarn, which I didn't know anything about when we went there, but I've since found out that it's quite a major producer and retailer, and very well respected in the woolen and fabric world. So, you know, who knows what you find in places. Anyway, they preserved part of the original building as part of one of their units, and several others have been built in similar style. Why I didn't take any photographs here, I shall never know. I think I got talking to one or two of the other people on the coach trip and just didn't get around to it. Anyway, enough of my babbling. The reason why we arrived here, and I have to say there's quite a nice tea room, gift shop, and several craft outlets as well. If you're in this area and you like that kind of thing, then it's certainly worth paying a visit. We didn't come here to see that though. We just came here because obviously they needed somewhere with room for the coach to park. We had actually come to see what's coming up next. Little more than a jetty really, I suppose, at Llanerch-Y-Mor. And to a very unusual thing, unfortunately it now has the appearance of a rotting hulk, but it wasn't always like that. This is the turbine steamship, the Duke of Lancaster, which in actual fact in 1955-56 was one of the very last ships built for British Railways as a passenger ferry. It was built in Harland Wolff at Belfast. Now, it was built as a ferry, but could be and was later converted to a cruise ship, and eventually found its way to Scotland. It went to parts of Europe, and then was converted to a passenger and car ferry in 1970. And in actual fact, it finished its last service in 1978 on the ferry route from Holyhead to Dunloe here. Let's get the proper pronunciation. The Irish won't like me if I don't. Dunleary. And it arrived here in 1979 to become a fun ship. But apparently there were constant battles with the council about what they could and couldn't do and all the rest of it, which probably accounts for this closed by pirates business. And it finally closed its main business in 2004. For a little while, just after 2012, for a few years, it was covered in artwork as an attempt to make it into a kind of art centre. And then was forced to close again. Now, unfortunately, it's a rotting landmark, although it does draw visitors to the area, but its future is uncertain. It has been sort of repainted in a fashion over the last year or two, and it looks as though work has begun again to try and preserve it, but sad to say, I think the only fate for this particular ship eventually, if they can move it to do it, is dismantling and disposal for scrap. Very sad to see it like this, but anyway, that is what people come here to see. And I'm sorry if you feel that these voiceovers bore you, but it's taken a bit of thinking, and like I say, where I find out such a lot more information after I've filmed, I've always been in two minds what's going to be best. Put it up in writing, but then the writing on the screen takes away your attention from what I'm trying to photograph or video, or bore the pants off you with a voiceover. I've even toyed with the idea of putting low, soft music underneath, but I don't think that's going to work. So you get it raw. I'll give you the information, and hope you appreciate the way I do it and why I do it. But again, if you've got any, polite comments, what you like, what you don't like, make a comment, and we'll see how we can adapt things into a format that suits most people. But this is the way I like to do it, because I still like to feel you're sitting when I'm here, you're sitting beside me listening to what I'm saying, and when I'm out, you're walking beside me, seeing what I'm doing and hearing what I'm saying. And that's why I call these walkumentaries. But anyway, that's the Duke of Lancaster at Llanerch-Y-Mor. And that concludes this video of our morning, because after the lunch break in Abercarn, we're now heading up to churches and cathedrals, I think I'll call that. And that will be the next video to be released. So bye for now from Llanerch-Y-Mor.